This is a verse that God laid on my heart in the last couple days. It's one that really I've known my whole life growing up, but he kind of revealed some things about this verse to me, and I thought about it for a while, and then I wanted to make a video and share that. So I've got my notes here beside me. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. That is Psalms 118:24. I was standing in the kitchen, kind of leaning over the counter and feeling maybe a little bit overwhelmed, and that verse come into my mind, and I thought, okay, anytime a verse like that just comes into your mind, it makes you stop and think and say, God, what is it that you're trying to tell me? So God makes our days. When we look at that verse, this is the day the Lord has made. God makes our days. In other words, God gives us every day that we have. Every day comes from him. The psalmist in Psalms 139:18, Psalms 139 is one of my favorite psalms, put it well when he says, I awake and I am still with thee. And we know from the Bible that God is in charge of everything, that he holds the keys of life and death. And God gives us every day that we have here on earth, we have a purpose here. And our purpose is to worship God, to serve him, of course, to lead others to Jesus. So then I started thinking about it. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Could this not be an outline for all of our days? And the theme of Psalms 118, it's a wonderful Psalms. If you haven't read it, go read it if you have a minute. But it's all about God's eternal love. And I love what the NLT version of the Bible pointed out. I like to cross-reference with that. And it said that this is where we get our confidence and our security. I love that. When we read that Psalms, it's about confidence and security. And this is actually one of the most referenced Psalms in the New Testament, which is interesting. I didn't know that until I was kind of researching about it. That word security has really stuck out to me lately because it's very easy to get our security from everywhere else but God. So I've got two other verses that I want us to look at. I've got them on my computer here, but there's just something about looking at them in the paper Bible, So I'm going to turn to 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 31. Whether therefore ye eat or drink or whatsoever ye do, do all to the glory of God. And then I also want to flip over just a little bit and look in Colossians chapter 3. And look at verse 23. And whatsoever ye do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not unto men. So these are just two among many, many, many verses in the Bible telling us how to live out our days. But going back to that verse, this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Thinking just very specifically about one day in particular, just a day at a time. Oftentimes, when we plan our days, when we get up and we do things, we have a long list of things to do. And in life, I think us as humans tend to have a list of things we think will make us happy. Possessions, accomplishments, people, and there's so many little subcategories within that. But at the end of the day, when our heads hit the pillow, none of these things are actually going to make us happy. And I feel like I didn't really give a lot of reference to the why behind this video. I do feel like God laid it on my heart to share this, but again, when I was standing in the kitchen and I was thinking about planning my day, sometimes it's overwhelming. You think, well, I've got so many things to do and I'm not going to be able to get them all done. And then, of course, I'm always thinking, well, what does God want me to do today? And when I just plan my day, sometimes I just get all, out of whack, and I don't know kind of how to sort things out and how to feel about it. And so that was kind of my mindset when God laid this on my heart. And I think it's always a great thing for us when we get up and we start our day. What I like to try to do is just pray and say, God, I'll do what I think I need to do today, but you guide me and you lead me, because while there are actual responsibilities that each one of us have on a day-to-day basis, we still want to commit that way or commit those things to God. So I feel like this video is getting a little scatterbrained. The baby is napping in the other room, and I know I'm on a very limited time. And sometimes that makes things seem, I don't know, a little kind of out of whack. So let's go back to this thought pattern of sometimes we as humans think, oh, this possession, this accomplishment, this person, this relationship will make me happy. But they don't, and we know that. Why? Why? Because they offer false security. They offer a security that is a shifting platform based on our abilities and our circumstances. I'll say that again. They offer people, possessions, accomplishments. They're going to offer us a false security, which is just this shifting platform based off of our abilities and our circumstances. And that's never going to make us ultimately happy. Think about if you were standing on something that was just constantly moving. Have you seen the videos with the hoverboards or whatever those things are? People always fall off of them because they're constantly moving. So let's look back at what the Psalms have said. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Some things to notice. The Lord made this day. So we have to acknowledge that every particle of our existence, every particle of this day, every piece of it comes from Him, and it comes from Him alone. And so there's a call here, a cue here to deny ourselves and find our security totally from Him. This is the day the Lord has made. It's not the day we made. It's not the day that, oh, well, I'm just going to get up and do whatever I want to do and completely ignore God. It's the day that the Lord has made. And this Psalms also shows us to take it one day at a time. The word this is a word used to specify things. So this day, not 2 days ago, not 2 days from now, this day, today, right now, right here, in this moment. And of course we know that the Bible tells us sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. We are supposed to live just one day at a time. But I love, love, love that verse. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Just that verse alone, meditating on that verse, when we acknowledge, God's made this day, can't that then drive out some of the anxiety or the overwhelm or the worry? God has made this day. He has given us this day. And then again, this day. My mom used to say, and I still hear her say it sometimes, God knew that we could only do things in 24 hours at a time. For a decent portion of that, we should be sleeping. Of course, we're going to have to eat and do other things like that. He knew that we couldn't do any more than that at one time. So also, when we look at these verses from Colossians and Corinthians, we have to do our daily activities. We have to work. We have to do dishes. We have to do laundry. We raise babies. We do all of these things. But we need to do them for the Lord, not for anyone else, not for our own selfish gain and our own selfish ambitions, not for other people, not for anyone but the Lord. So when we go back, this is the day the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. Everything we do, every activity we do from the time we wake up before our feet hit the floor, everything we do can be done for God. We can wash the dishes for God's glory. We can sweep the floors. We can change the poopy diapers and clean up the tons and tons and tons of spit up for God's glory. Everything we do can be done for Him and should be done for Him. But then, of course, that begs the question, how? How do we do that? I'm glad you asked that. By shifting our mindset to what we've already talked about, is living the truth that's in these verses. Our security comes from God, not possessions, not accomplishments, not people, not anything else. Not this long list of goals that we can check off at the end of the day. Not the status of our home, our car, our bank accounts, our relationship. And our security doesn't come from being so busy and stacking so many things in a day. We can get a lot done, but then do we have room for God? Or, here's a big one. This is one that I'm so guilty of. Stacking my day so full that it just leads to frustration and emotional overwhelm to the point that I'm totally distracted, my mind's not on God, and I am just basically creating this big roadblock right between me and God. Because I think, oh, I'll get security. I'll feel really good if I get all these things accomplished and get these things done. But our security has to come from God. Also, shifting our mindset so we're not letting our own pride and egos run the show. And again, that can go back to, all of these things we've mentioned, finding our security from our possessions, from people, from, I did this, me. Sometimes when we feel the pressure, there's so many things to do, it's because we think, well, I'm in control of everything. I'm responsible. I'm running the show. Me. And this right here, y'all, and this day and age, this is the generation of me. All about me. Live my own truth. Do whatever I want. That's not why we're here. We're here to serve the Lord. And so keeping our awareness of God in the mundane, everyday task, that is where true happiness lies. But from the standpoint of, this is the day the Lord has made, rejoice and be glad in it. We can rejoice and be glad when we're changing a diaper. So for me, changing lots of diapers, cleaning up lots of spit up, or when we're at work, we're working in an office, we're working a manual labor job, we're in whatever situation of life that we may be. So, kind of to sum everything up, is finally, instead of grabbing the day by the horns and trying to just bend it to our wills, taking control, let's receive every day as a blessing. That's what I truly think this verse is telling us. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. When it's a blessing, how do we receive a blessing? With humbleness, with an open mind, with open arms. We're thankful, and we should, of course, be thankful for every day God gives us, no matter what the circumstances are. The psalmist tells us to rejoice and be glad in this day that God has given us. He knew we would have trouble. He knew we would have bad days. The Bible tells us that much. But this verse here reminds us that there's always goodness to be found and experienced, no matter what the day holds. So, whenever you plan your days, whether you sit down with a calendar and you plan out your week, or you do it day to day, if you feel overwhelmed, if you don't feel overwhelmed, this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Think about that. Let's keep our awareness of God's presence in every single task that we do. And when we're not sure, when there's so many things to do, let's just keep our focus on God. I hope that this video made some sort of sense. It's like I said, when the baby is sleeping and I know the clock is on, sometimes I worry that these videos will get, too mixed up, or I'm not able to take the time I want to, sit down and video them. But even then, God can be found. And I pray that these videos are a blessing. And, I believe that God lays these things on my heart to share, and He knows the time and space that I have available to me. And I believe totally that He can work within those restraints and get across His point. So you have to drop me a comment and let me know what you think, and just meditate on that verse. And that goes great for starting this new year in 2025. And in one of my last videos or so, I said, what about just contentment? What about, instead of striving for more in 2025, we just be content with what we've got? And this goes right along with that. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Wherever you're at, just take a moment and say, wow, God, you've given me another day. I'm here. Thank you. You've made this day. I'll acknowledge that. I'll acknowledge you. I will live in your truth. So thank you for watching. Drop me a comment. God bless you. God keep you. And I'll see you on the next one. Now I gotta go check on a sleeping little baby.